Hey everyone, this is Gnovat and happy Doom of Dimensions day. Today I wanted to talk about one new card in that set, and that is Dracoel Rxel. Now I feel like this card doesn't get talked about as much as its counterparts, being K9 Noroi and Yummy Marshmallow, because these cards are obviously very, very strong and you see them and you know what to do with them. But I think that once you know how to use this card, you can get a lot of value out of it, and it's much better than you think. So today in this video, I wanted to show you some uses for this card. So first of all, for the effect, if this card gets normal or special summoned, you can revive a Dracoel monster in your graveyard. That doesn't have to be a level 4 or anything. It can be anything. So you can revive Gulamel, you can revive Athalion if you want. And after you revived, you bounce one of your monsters back to your hand, any of your monsters. So that's a lot of points you can tweak on what to revive, what to bounce. So you could revive something and bounce this card to your hand. You can revive a Dracoel and bounce that Dracoel to your hand. You can revive a Dracoel and bounce any other monster on your field. So lots of use cases for this, and generally if you weave this into your combos, you can get a +1 here and there and an additional body on the field or an additional trap on the board, just because you get the extra name in rotation. So what are the use cases? Of course, the best target is the Lucius, if you can do that turn 1. If your hand allows that, try to get the Lucius into the grave, and then you normal summon the Phryxul, bring back Lucius, bounce the Phryxul, and then the Lucius searches for you. So what that does is, as opposed to just normal summoning the Lucius, you will get an extra card in your hand, which is neat. Another use, of course, is if you have a 5 mana in the grave, and you need a 5 mana, you already used Lucius, normal summon Phryxul, summon the 5 mana, bounce the 5 mana, and then do whatever with the Phryxul. And another use, of course, for the follow-up that is a bit underrated is if you are trying to go for a game, you can just go normal summon Phryxul, revive the Pan, which is 2700, and bounce this back. This is a lot of extra damage that way. And then you can also bounce hand traps like Magnamut. In the Mitsurugi matchup, this is very, very strong. You will Magnamut, banish one of their monsters, and for example the Kusanagi. You get another Bestial or whatever, any Dracoel, and on the opponent's turn, on the next turn, you go Phryxul, revive, let's say, your Lucius, and bounce the Magnamut. Now you can go ham on the graveyard even more, banish something else, and just keep grinding that way while also getting the Lucius effect. Another use obviously would be Phantasme against Yummy. You Phantasme them, you draw cards, you fix your hand, you play into their board, and you can just go Phryxul, bounce the Phantasme. Once they make another Snatchy, you just draw more cards. You could also bounce the Nibiru. Nibiru, obviously, very, very strong hand trap in Dracoel. I've said that so many times. That is a card you can bounce. And then lastly, what I like to do is, especially in the pure version, to add just another layer of interaction. You do your combo and somehow you have like a normal summon left. You got your Mululu in the graveyard, and what you do is you can normal summon the Phryxul, get the Mululu, bounce the Phryxul, and now you have an extra interrupt in your field with the Phryxul in hand, ready to fuse with the Mululu. Obviously, these turn 1 applications mean that you need to have your normal summon open. So that means that any of these engines that use without taking your normal summons are important for these combos, and you will see at least these two in the combo next. I think I forgot the Dissolver. So there it is. This is another one. So Cartesia doesn't count here unless you play a fusion deployment, but you want to keep your normal summon open for the Phryxul, right? And if you have any of these, you can try to look at your hand and see how to get a relevant monster in the grave to revive with the Phryxul, because you haven't used your normal summon. So this is just a quick rundown, but let's see this card in action. So for the first line, this is for pure Dracoel, just to show off that. How I think the new cards Phryxul and Sting make a really good case for running this deck pure, because they fix some of the weaknesses that the pure deck had before. For example, with Phryxul, you no longer need Cartesia for the +1s because Phryxul can get the +1s every turn itself, and Sting, if you play it, adds a bit more interaction on top of your board. Now, for this line, what you need is some way to get to Lucius and one of these. So let's just go with Kitu and Lucius, put these here. And what you want to do is you start off by normal summoning Lucius, just in case they imperm you, you just have the Kitu anyway for the 5 mana. They shouldn't imperm here anyway, but who knows. So you go Lucius, and of course the most important piece is the 5 mana. And then you go Kitu and grab the Urgula. Now you can go use the 5 mana, fuse the Urgula with any monster in your hand to make Arthalion. Now this will trigger the Urgula and the Arthalion. You want to keep the Urgula in grave, so you'll set the Dracoel Rxel, and then you get these two back. And next up, what you do is you can link these two off into a cross sheep. Now, you can activate the Rahu, and if your opponent ashes the Rahu here, what you'll do is you go Urgula, get back the Lucius. You have 5 cards in hand, and you can, on the opponent's turn, just 5 mana, fuse the Lucius, summon the Arthalion here. Cross sheep triggers, gets you the Lucius back, and you just get more follow-up. Hopefully your hand traps are not Tuvalos, but actual hand traps, and you just try to make it through the turn that way. But if your opponent doesn't have the Ash, you fuse your 5 mana with your new Phryxul, and you can summon a Gulamel. This will trigger both the effects in the grave to set you the traps, and here you have a decision to make. Generally, this is 2 summons, 3, 4, right? If you use the cross sheep here, you are in nib range. So generally, I don't think people keep nib post side unless their siding patterns are off, but it's not the best hand trap into Dracoel. But if you don't care about nib, you use the cross sheep here. And if you do care about nib, you don't use the cross sheep. But either way, you will get your 2 traps. And let's just do the full line, and like just to show how it goes. And let's just play into the nib. The cross sheep can then revive the Phryxul. And then on new chain, Phryxul can summon back just any Dracoel. In this case, it's Lucius. If you have a Mululu in rotation, that's exceptional, because then you just leave the Mululu on field. You bounce back the Phryxul for follow-up or fusion fodder, and then you use your Urgula, grab back the 5 mana. And what you have here is 5 whole cards in hand, one of them being the 5 mana for interaction, hopefully 3 hand traps, and you have the Phryxul for follow-up, or if you need to fuse with it, you fuse with it. And more importantly, you can use the traps, of course, to get even more high-hand advantage. And once you use your 5 mana, you can just fuse with, I don't know, like these, make another Arthalion, get your effect veiler back or whatever, and then the cross sheep can trigger again, summoning you the Phryxul summoning the Lucius. You bounce the Phryxul to hand. The Lucius will then just search you another monster for your hand, and that is just a lot of advantage here. And this is generally what Phryxul does. It doesn't layer your board more, so just depending on what your list you run, you want to have that extra ceiling, but you can get a lot of hand advantage, and once you survive the turn, you can just go at your opponent with all you've got because you have so much follow-up in hand. So I already mentioned before that the existence of Phryxul means that you no longer need Cartesia and can go with fusion enablers that don't take your normal summon. In this case, I have the Dissolver, but any others except the dragons, which have totally different combos, will do. So you can go King of the Swamp, Black Sheep, whatever. But with Phryxul, we can actually do Magistus combo with any fusion enabler plus 5 mana, which before, if you had Cartesia plus a fusion enabler that was not Cartesia, that was not a good combo. And I just wanted to show that off, so we go and activate our scale here and use the Dissolver to fuse our 5 mana with any card in our hand for the Arthalion. You know the drill, we grab these 2 back, and here we set Kitu. Before that, I think you had to set Rahu, because otherwise you just do a standard Dracoel combo, I think. But here we can go key 2 and grab our Lucius, that we can then normal summon and grab our Phryxul. Now we link off the Lucius for the Artemis, and then we can use our 5 mana that hasn't been used yet to fuse these two for our Zoroa, keeping us safe from interactions. You use the Zoroa and you equip the Artemis. Now, the funny thing about the combo here is that we don't really care about the effect of Phryxul in this particular line. We just care that it is a third spellcaster here that we could have searched off of Lucius, because Lucius can't add itself, but 5 mana we already used the effect when it got fused away. So we go Artemis effect, grab ourselves a Crowley, which will then special summon itself, and now you can use the Crowley to fuse with the Phryxul and go into Iwas. And then we can use the effect of Phryxul to set ourselves a Rahu Dracoel. We can then use the Rahu Dracoel, any card in our hand, and the Urgila from the deck to summon Gulamel, and that'll trigger the Urgila, setting us our trap. And then before we end our turn, we use the Urgila to get back our 5 mana. And we'll end on the Zoroa, Iwas, Gulamel, a trap, a 5 mana on hand, and we have the Phryxul set up in the grave for a cross-sheep line next turn to just get a lot of advantage. So that is a use of Phryxul that has not anything to do with the effect, but with the typing. So this is a pretty cool line, and I think moving to fusion enablers that don't take your normal summon is very good. Now this line here is an extension of the last line, kind of. This time we have a fusion enabler. For this combo I took Black Sheep, because if you use Black Sheep there's some extra thing you can do. And we also have either anyway to Lucius. I just use the key to here just to show that you don't need it within the combo, just to show that it has the consistency. So if you have this hand, you start with the key to grab your Lucius, and you normal summon the Lucius to grab your 5 mana. And just to see if they interact with Lucius at all, and then you activate the Black Sheep to grab your polymerization, or if this is a dissolver, you just scale it and then use it from there. You use poly, you fuse these two away for an Arthalion, and the Arthalion grabs you back the 5 mana. If you use the solver, you just get back both cards you discarded. If you used Black Sheep or King of the Swamp, you can opt to take it here if you want to use it for a fusion later. So you grab these two back, and the 5 mana will set you a Rahu. You'll keep that here for now, because first we want to protect our Rahu. So Artemis and Arthalion, as we know, make the Zoroa, which will then equip the Artemis to itself. And then what you do is you use the Artemis, you grab the Crowley, special the Crowley, not use it here, because what you want to do is you're going to actually use the Artemis and the Crowley on the field to make Magistus Chorozo. This will send 2 monsters to your graveyard, so the Arthalion can actually come back. And now we have 2 monsters on the field as link fodder. The Zoroa can still negate. If they nib here, you can even just send the Magistus Chorozo. But even if you link off the Chorozo, which we'll do now, for a cross sheep, if they nib here, you can send itself. If they have nib and ash, then so be it. But now you have your Rahu protected from a ash, because we have Zoroa. So we can go Rahu, get another card out of your hand, and we'll send the Phryxul here. Usually in the normal combos you would send the Urgila bring back, but this just gives you extra pluses. So summon the Gulamel into the cross sheep zone, and that triggers the cross sheep and the Phryxul. Phryxul sets you a trap, and also the cross sheep brings back the Phryxul, and Phryxul can then summon back the 5 mana and bounce it to your hand. So now you grab back your 5 mana and you have 1 extra fusion material on the board. You leave the cross sheep zone open for at any point you go and fuse. The cross sheep can bring something back. And what's neat about the Black Sheep card here is, at any point you make an Arthalion. Let's say you go in the opponent's turn, you go 5 mana, use the Phryxul on the board, which is the extra plus that you got, with any card in your hand, and you make another Arthalion. You can even put it here, trigger the cross sheep, trigger the Arthalion, you grab back your Crowley. With the Arthalion, you used one card from hand, and the cross sheep brings back the Phryxul. And now you have chain links. You go chain link 1 Crowley, chain link 2 Phryxul. This is important because otherwise Crowley blocks the field for Phryxul in this particular instance. So the Phryxul can summon the Lucius, bounce itself back, then the Crowley goes into the field, and then again chain link 1, chain link 2. The Crowley can fuse with the black sheep in your hand for a Kaliga, and then the Lucius just gets you any monstrous follow-up. Let's just get another 5 mana. So now we can set a card as well. I've used the Phryxul. Should have done that in the chain link earlier, but yeah, you see what we're doing here, right? We have the Kaliga lock, we have the best follow-up we can have, and we still have the Zoroa plus the Flame. If you want to be extra cheeky, you can even not revive the Phryxul, and for extra protection on your Kaliga, just revive the Chorozo, because Chorozo is an attack negate. So if you want to go and lock your opponent out of the game, this is the way to do it, all thanks to this little card. So for the last line that I wanted to show is actually one of the first lines that I found with Phryxul. There's a reason I dropped it. You'll probably see while I do the combo, but I just wanted to show how much you can push the abilities of Phryxul in this deck. So in this case, it is a version that runs the King of the Swamp, and here we have 3 blanks, and then we have Lucius and King of the Swamp. So we use the King of the Swamp, add back our polymerization, and then we use the polymerization to fuse any card with our Lucius, summon our Thalion. Now, these types of lines with Phryxul are these are lines that you can do if you run a Black Sheep or King of the Swamp, because they are a fusion enabler that puts an extra monster into your grave. Because what you want to do here is you want to leave the Lucius or Mululu or whatever in grave. So you just add back the other 2, and you use the Lucius to grab the Kitu, which you can then use to grab yourself a Phryxul. Now, you can summon that Phryxul to bring back the Lucius and bounce the Phryxul, and then the Lucius triggers, getting you a 5 mana. Now you have 6 cards in hand, and the first thing you'll do is you'll make yourself nip-proof somewhat by going into seals. So that is the seals. And now you can go activate 5 mana, use King of the Swamp and Phryxul, and you summon Sanctifier in defense mode. Now, Sanctifier in defense mode should already ring the alarms for you, but you haven't used the Phryxul Grave effect, so you can go and grab your Rahu and just activate it, sending 1 card from your hand and an Urgila from your deck to make a Gulamel, also in defense mode. Then the Urgila triggers, you'll get the trap of your choice. Flame, I think, is a good one. And then you can go and use the Urgila, put itself under the deck, and you'll add your 5 mana. So here you can pass with this, and in the opponent's turn, you'll use the Sanctifier, and you give your opponent this beautiful little Link monster that locks them into dragons, and you summon your own Phryxul, because we want more pluses. So Phryxul, also in defense mode, activates its effect, summons Lucius, bounces itself back, and then the Lucius can add you any dragon you want extra, or like any Dracoel. Let's just take the Urgila back, and we have 5 cards in hand. We have the trap set. We have all of our monsters in defense mode, so the spirit cannot crash. And we have the seals in attack, which has 0 attack, so if they want to attack into it, we can just use it, bounce anything here, summon something else from our deck in defense mode, like a Mululu. And we have an untargetable Sanctifier. We have the Gulamel to pop if we need to. And generally, this is very hard for opponent to play. Now, I dropped this line, of course, because of if you leave the Lucias in the grave, you make yourself susceptible to hand traps. So at the beginning, I did a lot of those lines where I just left the monster on grave and Phryxul for the plus. But I think being resilient into hand traps is still better than doing that. But I just wanted to show that off. And I think if you run a King of the Swamp build, even if you don't run this package, and if you can't lock your opponent, I still think the Sanctifier is a very good option. Just fuse the Phryxul with the King of the Swamp, have the Sanctifier, and the Sanctifier in the opponent's turn can revive the Phryxul, similarly to how Cross Sheep does it. And that just gives you a lot of pluses. Plus, this card is also really good into Yummy because it's not targetable, so they have to run over it. So if you somehow can, for example, flame the field spell, that will definitely buy you a turn. So that is the Phryxul video. Of course, there are a lot more lines with Phryxul, but you just have to play the card a lot to see more of the lines. It just comes up. Just think about if you have your normal summon, can you somehow make use of it? If you get this to rotation, just continually bounce it, you'll just have infinite grind game. But that is it for the video. Leave a like, subscribe, hope you liked the video, and I'll see you next time.